Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Belarusians in Poland marked Freedom Day with a rally in Warsaw today, commemorating the declaration of an independent Belarus on March the 25th, 1918, uniting against the country's regime to grow support for democracy, identity and independence amid ongoing repression at home. Joining us is Franak Viačorka. He's chief advisor to opposition leader in exile, Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, to discuss today's events and their meaning. Franak, welcome to TVP World. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Good evening.
So tell us, what was the idea behind this march today? How did it go? What did we see that really stood out?
Yeah, so we see thousands of people marching today to Warsaw, but also in very different cities of Europe, Belarusians who are in exile, forced to exile because of repression. This day, it is National Day of Belarus, which is prohibited inside the country because it shows that Belarus had independence before and without Russia. And this day is prohibited to celebrate in any form inside Belarus. So today we mark solidarity with Belarusians fighting for freedom. Today we speak about political prisoners. Today we speak about the threat to our independence from Russia and from Lukashenko. And I was really happy to participate in the march today and to see that people still have energy, hope to return back home as soon as possible. We want our country, Belarus, to be free and democratic and European, and we see international solidarity from Ukraine, from Europe, from America, which inspires us as well.
Right, you talk about international solidarity, Franak. Tell us, how much influence is that solidarity having on the regime in power in Belarus at the moment?
You know, the situation in Belarus depends a lot on the situation in Ukraine primarily right now. If Ukraine will be successful, if there will be a ceasefire, there will be a chance for Belarus. A lot depends on sanctions. Will the United States and European Union put enough pressure on Lukashenko so it forces him to release people, to change the policy, and of course the support for civil society and media. If this support continues, then we will have a chance. Right now, European Union, Poland, Lithuania are our biggest allies and supporters. And they help us, first of all, to have a safe haven for refugees, and second, to sustain our organizations in exile. Because one day, when moment comes, when a regime will start crumble, these people who were on the streets today, who work in independent media, they will play a key role for changes in Belarus.
Yes, now tell us about the people waiting in exile, the government in exile. And I'm thinking about Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, but of course everyone that is around her. How prepared are you to step in as the government in Belarus starts to crumble, as you put it?
It's hard to say. We try to be prepared. We try to build coalitions and alliances inside the democratic movement, but also inside the nomenclatura. Because, of course, a lot will depend on the moods within Belarusian society inside the country. But we can influence these moods through independent media, through informational channels. We know that many people inside Lukashenko's apparatus, they also want democratic changes, and we can send them the message. If you will be with us when changes come, then you will have a future in a new Belarus. We are not the first movement in exile. Poland had its own government in exile. Baltic states had their own government. We tried to learn from past experiences. Thanks God we have internet. In the Cold War time, there was no internet. Now we have it. And internet allows us to communicate with people inside the country. And luckily, we feel this mutual feedback from people inside and from those in exile. And I think the cabinet of Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya and Coordination Council, like Proto-Parliament, which will have elections in 1 month, it helps also to show to Belarusians inside the country what is democracy. Because people live for 30 years in dictatorship, they forgot what is election in general. And we try to show and to teach them. You can vote, you choose your representatives, and you participate in elections. So we prepare society for changes.
Understood. Now, there is one person who's very much against any such election, and that is, of course, Vladimir Putin. How is he influencing Lukashenko? How is he influencing the status of the Belarusian economy and society?
I think he's basically the suzerain. He's leading Belarusian government right now. He keeps Lukashenko, he holds Lukashenko under full control. Belarusian economy becomes part of Russian economy de facto and participates in Russian war operation against Ukraine by circumventing sanctions, producing weapons for Russian army. And right now, Belarusian economy for 70-80% depends, and Belarusian export depends on Russia, practically. And Russia is doing in Belarus same thing what Russia is doing on occupied Ukrainian territories. They're trying to destroy national identity, culture, language. They try to convince Belarusians that you're Russians. Just a few days ago, we received information that they started to confiscate books published in Belarusian language. So only you can buy in bookstores Russian language books, no Belarusian language books. So unfortunately, this is a very dangerous process because they're trying to Russify Belarus and make Belarus looks like Russia. And we have to stop this process as soon as possible.
I see. Now, Lukashenko does seem open to conversations with the West as well, does he not? There was recently an American delegation that visited Minsk, and that resulted in the release of 250 political prisoners. Is Lukashenko kind of covering both sides by behaving in this way?
No, I don't think it's like playing both sides. I think he's trying to soften sanction pressure. Sanctions do work. Don't believe anyone who says that sanctions don't work. They do work. And case of Belarus shows that with sanctions, you can release people. You can save people's lives. This is what Americans are trying to do right now. They say, if you, Lukashenko, release political hostages, we can soften some of the sanctions we imposed on you. And they do that. They already softened sanctions on Belavia airline, on potash fertilizers, on a few state banks as well. And Lukashenko is releasing his political opponents. But I think it has some limitations because when he's releasing some prisoners, he's taken same number of hostages, again, new hostages. So it can be like a vicious circle of repression, of arrests. And in order to have a change, we need the full stop of repression. And I know that American delegation, we are in touch with them. They raised this issue before Lukashenko that he must change his policy, not just trade political prisoners in exchange for sanction relief.
Okay, now, I understand, of course, that there is a huge amount of repression in Minsk and any opposition is brutally put down. But are you seeing some kind of support within the country, muted though it may be?
Yes, we cannot organize anything publicly on the streets right now because when you go out to the street, you can be detained immediately. So any form of dissent publicly, it costs you 10, 15 years of prison. Myself, I am sentenced to 20 years of prison. In absentia, of course, but when I cross the border, I will go to jail for 20 years. So that's why we ask people to do safe form of protests, to organize something non-publicly, to create small communities. In these last few days of celebrating Freedom Day, we received hundreds of messages. Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, my president, she received so many messages from inside the country. People say, we are with you, we support you, protest, go to rallies on our behalf too, because we cannot protest right now. I think if there will be a change of geopolitical context and the repressions will not be so harsh as they are right now, people will be on the streets again. Belarus is not Russia. Belarusians don't support the war in Ukraine. Belarusians don't want to be part of Russian Federation. Belarusians hate Lukashenko. In Russia, many Russians love Putin. And I think all of that will create an opportunity, the new momentum for us as well. And we must be prepared for that moment.
Understood. Now, I want to talk about the prisoners for a second. What do we know about the political prisoners in general? Clearly, there's some high-profile prisoners, some of whom were released, but many were not. Andrei Pochobut comes to mind, for example. How are they being treated?
Yeah, right now 900 political prisoners are inside the country. A few hundred were released, including top political figures, but they were deported from Belarus. And now in Poland or Lithuania, they're trying to legalize themselves. But those in Belarus, prisoners, they are held in very difficult conditions. Very often, if you're political prisoner, you are in solitary confinement for years without information. Many people who were released recently, they say they didn't know the news. They didn't know what was happening in the world. They just now scrolling the news feeds and trying to learn 5 years what they missed. Andrei Pochobut is an example. He's a hostage of Lukashenko. With him, the regime in Minsk is trying to put pressure on Poland. It's also the revenge on Poland for Polish principled support for Belarusian democracy. They don't want to release him because they understand they will lose the tool of blackmail. And they keep him isolated despite international pressure, despite all the negotiations. They don't want to let him out. But I think, we can expect American track progress soon. And I hope in the next groups of prisoners, Pochobut and other prisoners, other journalists will appear.
Well, we look forward to that. Now, Lukashenko has just visited North Korea. What was that all about?
Gosh, it's a $1 billion question. I don't know what Belarusians can get from North Korea. I know what Lukashenko can get. Weapons, the experience exchange, how to circumvent sanctions. And for Lukashenko personally, it's a great inspiration because for 30 years, he's trying to build North Korea in the center of Europe, in Belarus. And he was so excited to see all these obedient, loyal citizens with flags praising their leaders, where 99% of votes in elections are always for the Führer, for supreme leader. I think he dreamt about this visit. Finally, this dream came true. Before, North Korea was not much interested in meeting Lukashenko, but I think Moscow influenced, Moscow convinced Lukashenko and Pyongyang to establish ties, especially right now when North Korea became a big partner for Russia in the war against Ukraine.
Right. So we're seeing now a bloc building, aren't we? Russia, Belarus and North Korea, commonalities between them. Where does China, in your opinion, sit with this?
I think China is cautious on Belarus. They don't take a clear political position. They do some investments in Belarus. They help Lukashenko to circumvent sanctions. Belarus buys some chips, electronics, which are used for military weapons production in Belarus. But after 2020 uprising, when Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya won presidential elections, Lukashenko was isolated, China decreased its economic cooperation with Minsk. Of course, they are interested in having Belarus as a stable country because almost 80% of their trade land transit goes through Belarus-EU border, and they want this border to be open. And for China, that's the most important factor, that Poland is not, or Lithuania is not closing the border with Belarus, because then China will be harmed most of all. So I think they are more cautious, but they meet Lukashenko, of course, they recognize him formally, but they will not play so big role as the European Union.
Understood. Well, Franak Viačorka, thank you very much indeed for coming along and sharing your analysis with our audience. And happy Freedom Day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. That brings us to the end of this particular World Talks. Don't go away. World News coming right up.